basically.
She's trying to do just the opposite.
High fly ball, deep left field. Oh, 27 does it again.
Gone. Fernando Tatis Jr. with a 2-run shot has the Padres on the board. Ball and 2 strikes to Shohei here. Oh, got it! Got it! Got it! 33!
Oh, wow. Where did that one go? That's his 11th.
Driven out to deep center field. Going back, Springer, turning, looking, see ya! Oh, what a shot by Judge! The Yankees lead 1-0.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Free Baseball. It's me and Jake again today. Welcome to episode number 16 of our awesome baseball podcast, Free Baseball, where we talk about everything baseball, obviously because it's a baseball podcast. And we'll start it off with our players of the week. Player of the week, Sandy Alcantara. I'll let Jake take it away. Jake's in love with Sandy Alcantara, so tell us all about him, man.
Yeah, if only I was single. Sandy is the GOAT. He's not even at peak form yet. This isn't even his final form, but he went off last week. This is players of the week from last week, not including the last couple of days, since we're a couple days late on the podcast. No worries. Sandy Alcantara went off, secured 2 wins. His first one was against the Nationals on the 16th. Went 8 innings, allowed only 3 hits and a walk with 1 earned run and 5 Ks. Pretty solid. He's not striking guys out like he was in the second half of last season, but he is probably the premier innings eater. He's probably the premier workhorse arm in all of baseball. Like, you have old guys like Wainwright and stuff, like Kyle Hendricks, that can go 9 innings, unlike many pitchers. But Sandy's he's the premier guy to eat some innings, to throw a complete game. That's exactly what he did against the Braves on the 22nd. Went with got a win, another one. Went to full 9, allowed 6 hits, 2 walks, no earned, and 7 Ks. It was technically not a shutout. He allowed 3 unearned runs, but solid enough. He got the win. And player of the week for the National League. Not much else to say. Sandy is just an incredible guy who can throw hard for over 120 pitches.
Make sure you check out our bold predictions article too. Jake actually had Sandy Alcantara pegged as the NL Cy Young favorite, and maybe this is the start of him picking it up and getting on track towards the NL Cy Young. Like Jake said, he's the Chad innings eater. He's the GOAT. And the same can be said last week. Trevor Story, hottest hitter in baseball, especially American League Player of the Week. And 31 plate appearances, hit 360 over that time, scored 10 runs. Mashed 6 home runs. Everyone had kind of dogged him. Hadn't been hitting for any power so far. Said also you, and he hit 6 home runs in a year. I almost said in a year. That'd not be very good. But in a week, 14 RBIs, tack on 2 steals, and a 15.27 OPS. Trevor Story providing some life to a Red Sox team who thus far has looked pretty dead. Assimilating great into that lineup. There's a bunch of pictures circulating of Trevor Story's the ultimate Boston guy. There's a bunch of pictures of him in the Marcus Smart jersey. Really, really fitting in with the Red Sox and raking right now. Really good for Trevor Story. Glad to see him bounce back. And speaking of Trevor Story, he had the 3 home run game after he struggled to start the season, of course. 3 home runs in a game, then hit a grand slam in the next game. There's a bunch of talk from last week. There's been the dead ball. We talked about it last podcast. It was a major issue with baseball right now, and it seemed to have gone away. Maybe we had something to do with that. I don't know. Astros hit 5 home runs in an inning off of, unfortunately, my dark horse Cy Young candidate, Nathan Eovaldi, who's been not very good this year. They hit him 3 home runs off of him in an inning. Josh Rojas also had a 3 home run game against unfortunately, the Chicago Cubs. But the Cubs and the D-backs in that game combined for 11 home runs in the game. And then last night, Jock Peterson, the GOAT, hit 3 home runs last game. 4 for 6, 3 runs, 3 runs, obviously 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, and he had a game-tying single in the bottom of the 9th. You know, what are your thoughts? I mean, have they changed the baseball again, or offense is finally just kind of getting used to the offensive environment now with the league, or is everyone just kind of hitting their stride at the right time? It's not so much early in the season anymore. There was kind of the abbreviated spring training. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a combination of a lot of different things. You can definitely blame the delayed spring training to hitters not getting hot as early, but I think a lot of it has to do with the humidors because you have the humidors in every single ballpark and the way, like, I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago, and I talked at length about it, but how the humidor will have different effects based on the humidity outside. So if you're in an environment that is less humid and you have a humidor that is adding humidity to a ball, it'll sort of weigh it down with water. You got like a waterlogged ball. And then now that the weather is heating up, places are getting more humid. Now you have the ball staying at that same humidity baseline. And so it's becoming lighter compared to the air around it. So it'll fly further. So you have that on top of players getting accustomed to the season, and you have weather heating up, which usually already makes the ball fly further. Like you always have lower offensive stats in April, and we're getting close to the summer now. So the ball is flying a lot further. So I think this is sort of what MLB planned when it had the humidors installed in every single ballpark, because you would see opposite effects from what you have in places like Colorado and Arizona, where the ball is always being held back because it's not humid in those places. So now you see it in other places where it's more humid. You see the ball flying further. It was pretty crazy. That 5 home run inning off Nathan Eovaldi, he just literally could not catch a break. You talked about Trevor Story, 3 home runs in a game. He was really struggling to begin the season, so it was good to see him get going. It's pretty crazy when somebody goes from like not hitting at all, and then they just have one game where they just like flip a switch and turn around and become like the best hitter in baseball. It's always pretty crazy to see. Josh Rojas was doing that. He had no home runs entering his 3 home run game, which is pretty impressive. He was injured to start the year, so he didn't have as many chances as Story to hit home runs, but nonetheless, pretty crazy game. The wind was definitely blowing out in Wrigley Field that day as 11 home runs crossed the fence. And yeah, Jock Peterson last night, that game versus the Giants was crazy. Did you catch it at all?
I didn't. I was not able to watch that game. But Jock Peterson, I mean, I love Jock. He's fun. He's exciting. Obviously, he mashes baseballs when he's really feeling it. And we talked about it when the Giants got him. I mean, he's going to be a Giants guy. It's going to be like, yeah, he's going to hit 30 home runs. He's like, oh, I'm just trying to speed run to it right now. Yeah, awesome for Jock.
He just hit another home run today too. So that's 4 home runs in the past 2 days. I was just at the Giants game on Monday. I went with my brother. They got roasted 13-3 by the Mets. So it was not the best game to go to. Literally, if I just waited one night and gone last night, it would have been amazing. The Mets had like a 6-run comeback in the middle of the game, like in the 8th inning or something. 6-run comeback. There were like 3 ties and 3 lead changes, and the Mets like took the lead in the 8th, then blew it, then took it back in the 9th, and then blew it again. The Giants walked it off. It was like 13-12 final score. Just a crazy game. Wish I had gone to that one, but I got to see a Pete Alonso dinger when I was there, so I guess that's worth it. Also, Jeff McNeil hit one too while I was there. So eventful night for the Giants last night, and especially for Jock Peterson, as he's just mashing the ball lately. But it was an eventful night for a Cub a few days ago. How about you talk about Christopher Morel?
Of course, I would love to talk to you about Christopher Morel. Christopher Morel is a minor leaguer, not anymore. Obviously, he's my minor league prospect for the Chicago Cubs, called up straight from Double-A. More of a utility infield kind of guy, can play all over the infield, except for catcher, really. But he hit a home run in his first major league at bat. It was a crazy at bat. He's pinch hit, or he was a pinch hitter, worked it all the way to 3-2 count. I think it was like even more than that. I want to say it was like a 10 pitch at bat, and then he just cranks a long home run. Is awesome. He's the number 21 prospect in the according to MLB Pipeline. He's only 23. Double-A, he only had 28 games this year in Double-A, but he looked really good. He hit 306 with 380 on base, 565 slugging. 148 WRC plus. He hit 7 home runs as well. He's also, to start his career, he's been really hot so far for the Cubs. To start his career, he's appeared in 7 games. He's appeared on base, or he's gotten on base safely in each game he's appeared in. He's also accumulated more FWAR than Javier Baez so far. So, fun little fact. I still love Javi, obviously, but Morel, I mean, he's been a really bright spot to a Cubs team that's honestly just been pretty miserable to watch. I mean, like we all kind of thought. I liked a foolish baseball tweet the other day that was like the Orioles are entering a new era where they are bad but fun, and the Cubs were bad but not fun. Frank Schwindel struggled, Wisdom struggled, all their cool old veterans and old rookies, not veterans. They're old rookies, kind of struggling to start the year. They weren't really fun to watch. All their Seiya Suzuki looked good. He's kind of struggled. Marcus Stroman's been hurt and struggled as well. But Christopher Morel's been a real bright spot to watch the Cubs. And hopefully they'll keep it going. He hits for a little bit of power. Like I said, utility infield guy. Stole the base last night. That's really cool. But yeah, really fun moment for him to come in and smack a home run in his first appearance, pinch hit. Yeah. We literally talked about that on the podcast the same day, where it's like, or not the same day, but like the last week's podcast was like the only thing that could have been better than hitting a home run in your first game was hitting a home run in your first at bat, and he hit a home run in his first at bat. That's the first thing I was watching that game. That's the first thing that I thought of when I saw that.
I love those. I love when players do the first home run in their first at bat. It's always so sick because it puts you on like a short list of guys that have ever done that. So you're like not only like locked into history, but like you have that good start to your career, gives you the confidence and stuff. Always cool when you see that. Like you want a prospect to succeed when they come up, especially one that's like not like a super top prospect, like you said, number 21 in the Cubs system. But he was killing it in Double-A. He played some Triple-A last season, but not much. So he doesn't have that much got a ambulance going by. Not much experience in the upper levels of the minor leagues, but nonetheless, he was incredible this past week. He hit another home run a few days later. So, yeah, like you said, he's been killing it. So that's dope. You got a guy who can play the corner outfield, corner infield. Pretty solid.
Yeah,
pretty dope.
First guy to greet him coming out of the dugout. Same member of the same club. And obviously his teammate, Wilson Contreras, also hit a home run in his first major league at bat.
Nice.
I thought that was a cool moment too. He was number one outside. He was even on the dugout steps cheering him on during the at bat, and then he was the first one to greet him after he rounds the bases. It was a cool moment. Some top prospect debuts. We talked about Morel being a more of an unheralded prospect, but some top prospects debuted this week. Starting with Nolan Gorman and Matt Liberatore has. I don't know. Well, I was going to say, I don't know if he's made a start the same day Nolan Gorman did. I don't believe so.
No.
Nolan Gorman for and Matt Liberatore for the St. Louis Cardinals. They're number 27 prospect according to MLB Pipeline, and the number 36 prospect according to MLB Pipeline, respectively. Nolan Gorman, we talked about him. We're not sure if he'll survive. I think you said that in the group chat. We're not sure if he'll survive with like 36% strikeout rate.
34%.
34. Yeah, that's rough. But big guy, can play hits for a lot of power, play second base, third base, first base, wherever you need him. He's a great fielder for the Cardinals. And Matt Liberatore, their top pitching prospect. Both just 22. Talked about the K rate with Gorman. He hit 15 home runs last year. He's hit 15 home runs in AAA. He's got 34% strikeout rate. Hitting 308 still, 367 on base, 677 slug. And Matt Liberatore's got 6 games started, gone for 40 innings, sub 4 ERA, 3.83, 1.2 whip, 28.4% strikeout rate as well. He debuted against the Pirates a few days after he was called up. Went 4.2, gave up 7 hits, 4 earned, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. Not the best start, but not awful. Something to build off of. What are your thoughts on the Cardinals calling these guys up? I know they haven't been as good as a lot of people expected them to be. I know we weren't very high on the Cardinals to start the year.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's cool that they called up these guys. I mean, their time was coming soon. Gorman's been killing it in AAA despite the strikeout rate. It's pretty interesting for that strikeout rate. He struck out less than 20% of the time last year in AAA. So pretty weird to see him go all the way up to 34%. But I think it just shows that he's being like a little more aggressive at the plate because he hit 14 home runs in more games last year and has 15 home runs this year in AAA. So he's obviously changing his approach to get to more power, which is pretty interesting. He was a guy who came up as like a third base prospect, and then once they got Arenado, you're not displacing him, so they moved him to second base. So he's a second base guy, sort of in the vein of like Max Muncy, not the same plate discipline, but big power. Pretty interesting. What's more interesting is that Gorman and Liberatore were like best friends since like they were like 5 years old. They've been playing. Yeah, they've been playing like little league together. Liberatore came over to the Cardinals via the Randy Arozarena, Jose Martinez trade from the Rays a couple years back. So he was really excited to join his longtime friend Gorman in the minor leagues. So that's pretty cool. That's why they're both the same age. They've been friends for a while. But Liberatore is a guy who's got good stuff, but hasn't had like amazing results in the minor leagues. So, and I think he was like a first round pick when he was drafted a few years ago. And so that's why he's had such a high prospect pedigree so far. But he's a guy who sort of struggles with his command. He didn't really show it too much in his last start, and he sort of got really unlucky with Corey Dickerson was playing left field. He's not really the guy you want to be playing left field. He sort of like misplayed a ball in left field that he should have caught, but he let hit the wall. So that was one of the extra base hits he allowed. And then he also gave up an inside the park home run to Brian Reynolds and another ball that Dickerson misplayed. So he was sort of getting pretty unlucky, but he wasn't really spotting his pitches too well. He's got a curveball that's just a straight yacker. Really good pitch, but this might be a situation where it's a guy that takes a couple years to develop into the prospect that we think he could be. So I don't think this is the year that he's going to go off. Gorman, I think, has a better chance, but like you said, he strikes out. He's been striking out a ton, and that's normally not a recipe for success for a guy coming from the minor leagues. Like if you're already striking out 34% and strikeout percentage usually goes up when you hit the majors, it's not going to be good. But maybe with different coaching in the majors, they can help him be more patient, help him avoid the strikeouts. And sometimes you just have a guy that comes up and does better than he did in the minor leagues, and that could be Gorman. So far, he hasn't hit a dinger, but he's been solid.
Yeah. Really good for the Cardinals. I like that they're still competing for their team that's competing for a wild card spot, and even in the division, I think they're 3 games back of the Brewers, and they're still calling up prospects trying to win, showing that teams can do that and should do that. Number 1 prospect in baseball, obviously, Adley Rutschman made his debut with the Baltimore Orioles. Big moment, arguably probably a season and a half late. You could really say. I mean, there's no reason that he shouldn't have started the year on the Orioles roster, in my opinion. The Orioles are obviously not
he
good.
Was injured.
Well, still make a roster spot for him. It's not like he could have done any worse than anybody else they've run out there. You can just put a cardboard cutout of him out there. It'd probably be just about the same. He's baseball's number one prospect according to the MLB Pipeline, number 1 overall pick, 2019 draft. He's an older rookie now, but he's a catcher. He's 24 years old. 2021 AAA, really good. He had 43 games. Obviously, I think he struggled with injury a little bit. He hit 312, 405 on base, 490 slug, 5 home runs, 142 WRC plus. Obviously, in AAA this year, also been very good. Average down, 233. But the on base percentage and the plate discipline looking still pretty good. 377 on base, 442 slug, hit 3 home runs, 127 WRC plus. Like we both said, there's no reason he shouldn't have been on the Orioles roster. So they called him up. He's going to probably be their everyday catcher until the end of the season. Maybe an AL Rookie of the Year favorite, depending on how he produces. I mean, he should produce. He's a stud. He's just a beast of a catcher, great catching prospect, and just nice to see. Nice to see the Orioles actually trying to blood in some prospects and really caring. Grayson Rodriguez is next. Has to be. A bunch of O's fans on Twitter
Fingers
banging
crossed.
the drum. But nice to see.
Yeah. This is one of the most anticipated debuts. Maybe not the most anticipated, but everybody's been waiting for him for a couple of years since he got drafted first overall. You really don't see a lot of really good switch hitting catchers drafted by the Orioles. Wait, Matt Wieters? Oh no. Bad comparison for Wieters and Adley Rutschman. Wieters was a top prospect as well, was a switch hitter, a top pick in the draft, and not a guy who he didn't flounder, but he wasn't as good as people thought. But I think Adley's a lot better than that. He shows really good plate discipline. Like you said, when you're reading out his OBP numbers versus his average numbers, they're over 100 points better in the on-base department. That's because he strikes out less than 20% of the time, walks more than 10% of the time. That's really good, especially for a guy of his age. I thought it was pretty funny. Speaking of foolish baseball again, I saw a tweet where he said, wow, Juan Soto is going to be really good when he's Adley Rutschman's age, which is just insane that he's younger than him. But I thought that was really funny. But yeah, Rutschman was injured for the first few weeks of the season, and then he had to rehab assignment his way through the minors. So he played high A, double A, and triple A before they called him up. But it was about time. He definitely deserves a spot. I picked him up in fantasy because I was up at 6 a.m. for work. So that paid off, but I got two catchers, not really the type of guy to want two catchers on my team. So if anybody wants to trade for him, feel free to send me an offer. But nonetheless, I think he's going to be a much better real life player than a fantasy guy, especially for roto stuff. I know we don't talk about fantasy a lot, but he's got the plate discipline, which doesn't really play into roto leagues, and he also is a really good defender behind the plate, which definitely doesn't play into fantasy. So I think he's going to be a really good real life player. He's already 24, so he could hit the ground running right away, but with catchers it normally takes them a while to get up to major league speed. But yeah, it's really exciting to see the Orioles finally start becoming an interesting team. And they may just be a couple years away from being competitive. They just need to sign a couple free agents this year or next, and they'll be right there. But yeah, like you said, Grayson Rodriguez is next. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Segueing from prospects, let's talk about some established guys in the early MVP debate. There's some names we've got listed that are mainstays, and some that are kind of a bit surprising, or not so much surprising, but not perennial MVP candidates that you'd normally hear about. Starting in the American League, I think for my money, I think the AL MVP favorite right now is Mike Trout. I don't think, and I said it before, I think it's in our bold prediction article, I think Vlad's going to win it. But it's incredibly hard to ever bet against Mike Trout if he's actually healthy. And that's proving true this year. He's on a team with some actual lineup support and some insurance behind him. He's Mike Trout. He's always been Mike Trout, and he's going to continue to be Mike Trout, and he's showing that so far. He's worth 3 F4. He's at 12 home runs, 223 WRC plus, which is disgusting, sitting 328. Who's your favorite from the list that you got on here if it's not Mike Trout? Because for me, I can't bet against him.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more we could do a debate. So we got Trout versus Judge, and then the other one is going to be those last three versus each other. Because I think Trout and Judge are the two favorites right now for sure. Judge is leading all of baseball in home runs. I think you already chose Trout. That's fair enough.
Yeah,
he's been killing it.
He's the goat.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time to not disagree with you, just because I tried to make these debates so that maybe we can get a little bit of disagreement. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, because he would be talking up Judge big time. But Judge has been killing it. 314 average, 17 home runs to lead all of baseball, 2 steals, 210 WRC plus, which is so close to Trout's, and is still just incredible by himself. And he's 0.1 F4 away from him at 2.9, which is negligible. It's F4 isn't that exact in the decimal point area. So I don't know. I think it's so hard to choose here, because both of the teams are doing well, so you can't use that as the tiebreaker. The Angels are finally doing well this year, and Trout has won so many MVPs. I think if the voters were voting, and this is not my personal opinion, that they would go with Judge just because he's got
Yeah.
like the leading home run totals. He's on a team that's got. Are they still the best team in baseball? It's probably the Dodgers. I haven't checked in a while. But yeah, so I think the voters would choose him. But since I'm not the biggest Yankees fan, and since I'm a big Mike Trout fan, I'd have to agree with you and go with Mike Trout. He's just been so good. We know how good Mike Trout can be. He's the GOAT, and it's hard to ever bet against him. Like any year that, like you said, any year that he is healthy, he is like up there for MVP. And anytime that he finishes like runner up and stuff, it's pretty messed up. It's just because somebody else had a good year and they're like, well, Mike's already won it before, when he really deserves it every single year that he plays a full season.
Yeah, I think you could play some devil's advocate regarding Aaron Judge trying
Definitely.
to win, mainly just because he does have the home run lead. He hasn't really shown off a lot of defensive value so far compared to Mike Trout. I believe Mike Trout's got more defensive WAR than him. But, everyone knows Aaron Judge is a great defender. He's got a huge arm, really good in the field. I honestly think that there could be some bias, like you said, with Mike Trout. He's won it before. If the Yankees are good, they do still have the best record in baseball. I had to look it up.
Yeah.
By one game, they're better than the Dodgers. So
Yep.
for the current moment, they're the best team in baseball. I think if they really continue and maintain this lead, and he maintains the torrid pace that he's on, I think that they'd make an argument for Judge just because he'd be the best player on the best team, which is not really the best way to judge, for lack of a better term, to judge an MVP candidate. But I think they could make the argument for Judge. Everyone likes home runs.
Yeah. How much do you think Judge is worth this offseason if he wins the MVP?
If he wins the MVP, I'd have to feel like he's probably got to get something around what Harper got, maybe a little bit less.
Because of the age aspect?
Yeah, because he's older than Harper and Machado when they hit free agency. What is he? He's got to be almost 30, if not 30 now. Yeah, he's 30 years old. I think he'd probably have to get somewhere close to what maybe Harper got, but Isaiah's piping up in the comments. But no, I don't know if he's really worth all that. He's got the injury concerns. I know he hasn't really backed that up in the last two or so weeks, or not weeks, in the last 2 or so years. But there has been injury concern in the past. He's an older guy. He's a big power hitter. I don't know. What do you think? Or are you thinking?
Was it like 7 years, $210 million that the Yankees offered him before the season?
I think so.
I think he's going to shoot for like 250 to like 275. And if he wins the MVP, I think I could see him getting like 275 over like 8 years, maybe. I don't know. I can't see 10 years for him since he's already 29 this year and he's going to be 30. So then you're buying just his age 30 to 40 seasons, which are obviously not going to be as good. But he's like, I don't know. He's one of those like pure hitter guys. Like he's obviously super athletic, especially for his size. But he's one of those guys that's just like crushes the ball like Stanton. He just like hit it harder than anybody in the league. It's like him, Stanton, and Yordan Alvarez are the hardest hitters in baseball. So that's sort of something, that's sort of a ability that sticks with you for a long time. I could definitely see him being really good, but I don't know if a team could hand out 10 years. I don't see him getting over 300 million, but I could see him getting close, like 250 to 275 million for sure.
That's what I think. I don't think he even sniffs 10 years. I don't even think he sniffs 10 years. He's too old. This was his age 30 season. He turned 30 in like the middle of April or something.
Oh, okay. Dang.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I do think he's worth a lot of money. I don't know if the Yankees are actually going to pony it up and give it to him. If he are, plus he already turned down the offer. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Let's see him go to the Giants, baby.
He could be back up to Jock Peterson.
Yes.
So our next MVP debate would be J-Ram, Jose Ramirez versus Rafael Devers versus Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson in the news this last week with Josh Donaldson.
Town.
Yeah, we won't talk about it. The whole thing was stupid. We'll move past that. Talk about baseball. So J-Ram, Devers, and Tim Anderson. Where are you falling in this this debate? Because I think I don't think it's as clear cut as it really initially looks when you have like J Ram on there.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have guys, each of them like leading in their own respective things. Like Joe Ram's got the most home runs and most steals, highest WRC plus. Devers has just been like really solid, where he's got the second highest average of this group at 337, second most home runs at 10, and tied for the second best WRC plus, and has the tied for the best WAR. So he's sort of like the middle guy who's just doing everything really well. And then you got Tim Anderson, who's just like killing it, like in the contact rates and stuff, batting 365, striking out like 10% of the time, looking like one of the best pure hitters in baseball. He just never walks at all. He's like doing a Javi Baez, but better than Javi could ever do it. Yeah, refuses. Exactly. I'd have to go with Jose Ramirez. The Red Sox and White Sox haven't been that great. I'm not normally a guy who's like, oh, the team has to be good if you want to be in the MVP conversation. But I think Jose Ramirez is just one of the most underrated guys in all of baseball. That 191 WRC plus is third in the American League. I think he's pretty close to being in that conversation with Judge and Trout. He just doesn't really get the recognition that he deserves most of the time, but he's incredible. He just does everything on a baseball field that you could ask for. And I think if like Judge or Trout were to get injured, then Ramirez could definitely run away with it. Or be up there with one of the two who doesn't get injured. So yeah, I think I'd definitely go Jose Ramirez among these three, but there's definitely a case that can be made for Devers or Tim Anderson.
Yeah, I think J Ram's leading this group by a little bit, but I think Rafael Devers is specifically the one that's right behind him. He's currently one off of the league lead in hits by someone that we'll talk about later, and I've talked about in the past. Devers, obviously, hitting 337. He's got 59 hits already, 10 home runs, a steal, 176 WRC plus, and 2.5 FWAR. And that's a lot of FWAR for a player that's not really got a whole lot backing him in terms of defense. Yeah, he's not a net negative defender, but he's not really a great positive as a defender either. He's a huge bat. Consistently puts the ball in play, and he puts the ball in play with a lot of power. And it's important to remember that he's still insanely young as well. This is his age 25 season, and Rafael Devers is only going to get better from here. I really think that he's going to be the one that pushes him. Tim Anderson, he's got the high average, but he's a pretty bad defender still. I sent you the tweet to make Isaiah mad. That was Tim Anderson grades out as a very poor defender, which still makes him a better defender than Derek Jeter was in his career. So I like Tim Anderson, even though I'm a Cubs fan, but I think Rafael Devers is going to be the one that would probably finish. If this is the group right now, he's going to finish fourth, if not third. I think he'll be the one that push J Ram for that spot. On to the National League. We're going to talk about the big debate so far. Manny Machado and Mookie Betts. Manny Machado for me is MVP. I don't see there's a way that he can't be. And even in all of baseball, you could probably make an argument maybe against Trout just because the defense, he's an elite defender, potentially still the best defender at third base. Amazing hitter, leading the league in hits, leading all of baseball in hits. 10 home runs. 8 home runs, 7 steals, which is crazy because he's not a big speed guy. It was like a 193 WRC plus, and yeah, he's just a beast. Compared to Mookie Betts, who the power numbers have kind of come back. He struggled a little bit last year, hitting 292, 12 home runs, 3 steals with a 172 WRC plus, 2.7 F4. And it seems like he didn't hit a home run for like ever, and then now he's hitting a million of them. And Mookie is Mookie too. It's like, For me, when Mookie's at his peak, he's the second best player in baseball behind Mike Trout still.
And that's backed up by the numbers.
Yeah. Baseball's so fun, and these MVP debates are just the best. I already feel like I know who you're going to pick from this debate just because of a certain bias, but I'll let you have the floor.
Hey, that's not fair. But yeah, I don't even think it has anything to do with the Dodger bias. I like Mookie. Obviously, I like him less now that he's on the Dodgers. But I mean, Machado might be the best player in all of baseball so far this year.
Yeah.
Leading baseball in F4, and that's not only just his MLB leading average, but it's also his incredible defense at third base. So I mean, I don't think there's much of a debate here. I just sort of had to put somebody else up there with Machado, but he's sort of running away with it. He's been killing it. I can't believe he just keeps going nonstop. That's a big bug. He just keeps knocking out the home runs. He just keeps knocking out the hits. He's been pretty unstoppable so far. I wonder if he'll be able to keep it up when he's not like the main person in the lineup, when Tatis is back at some point in hopefully next month. We'll see, maybe beginning of July. But yeah, that'll be an exciting lineup. The Padres have been really good. Obviously, the Dodgers are really good, but Mookie's got more support than Machado. His batting line has been rising though for a few weeks. So like if Mookie continues, like you said, to hit home runs after he had a slow start out of the gate, he could definitely get a lot closer to Machado. But if Machado has like anywhere near what he's been doing so far this year, he's gonna like literally just run away with it, which would be pretty cool to see a new guy win the National League MVP. I thought it was gonna be Juan Soto. He's not even in the conversation right now. Yeah. That's pretty disappointing. Who won last year? I can't even remember.
Harper did, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, and Harper's been pretty crazy. He's not going to be in the debate, but he's been for players with partially torn UCLs. He's the MVP for players with partially torn UCLs for sure. He's been killing it. But yep, I thought that would be the final year where somebody like Harper or a veteran wins, and then it's just going to be like Tatis and Soto in the National League for years to come, and Acuna, just like those three at the top. But none of the three of those are even in the debate right now, because two of them have been injured for most of the season, in Acuna and Tatis, and then you have Soto, who's just on a really horrible team and hasn't been able to hit as well as he usually does, and he doesn't provide the fielding ability that gets his WAR up there as high as Machado's.
Yeah. So before we get on to this next debate, just a little segue of, if Manny Machado wins MVP, do you think that basically catapults him into the Hall of Fame consideration? Because for me, he's already there. I mean, he's almost at what, 50 WAR. He's at like right on the doorstep of 50 WAR. If he wins an MVP, I mean, does that put him in? He's 29. He's 29, yeah, and he's crazy. And he's at 50 WAR, which is crazy because I mean, everyone talks about like, oh, well, Harper was on like a super trajectory and Mookie was, and then he's like Manny Machado. It's like everyone thought like after he signed the big contract and had a down year, which was still a good year, everyone's like, oh man, he sucks. He's overrated. No, he's insane. He's worth 50 WAR for his career. He's not 30 yet. If he wins the MVP, is he in the Hall of Fame?
I mean, obviously not quite yet. Like he's gonna have to play out the rest of his career, but I mean that's like the topper right there. Like you sort of have to. A lot of people will say that you have to be like the best player in baseball at some point in your career, you know, to like make the Hall of Fame or be one of the best. And when you win the MVP, that sort of just is like, oh, he was the best player in his league, so that shows that he has that ceiling that he hit. But he's been playing since he was like 19. He's just been around for so long. Provides that incredible defense, tons of Gold Gloves. He's been a really solid hitter, and he just keeps getting better at the plate too. So I mean, that I think that could guarantee him, as long as he doesn't like lose a leg or lose an arm or a leg or something and just like can't play for the rest of his career. I think as long as he like finishes out this contract that he's on with the Padres, I think he might be like a shoo-in for MVP or for Hall of Fame. I don't know if he's like a first ballot type guy, but I think he would definitely get in sort of in that below a tier of the top tier of Hall of Famers. But yeah, with a WAR that high already because of the defense and the really solid bat, I could definitely see him getting in for sure, which is pretty crazy because it's like when you're watching a Hall of Famer, like you don't really notice until it's like too late. You know what I mean? Like right. I don't think anybody thought like in Machado's first few years that he was like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be a Hall of Famer. Like when you watch like Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, like Miguel Cabrera
like,
was
the these guys are Hall
crown.
of Famers.
Yeah, exactly. And Pujols was incredible for like his first 10 years. It's like, okay, yeah, this guy's definitely on a Hall of Fame pace, but it's sort of taken Machado the last couple of years of like becoming an elite hitter along with the defense to make him stand out as one of the best players of his generation so far.
Yeah, I saw a tweet the other day comparing him to Adrian Beltre, and I think that comparison is honestly kind of striking. They're very similar players, both kind of a little bit sluggish out of the gates, hitting wise. but then just kind of hit a stride and then kept on it forever.
Yeah. And Beltre was really good late in his career and hit 3,000 hits too, 500 home runs.
Right, and we talked about Machado the other week on is he potentially a player on pace to hit 3,000 hits? And I think
exactly.
I mean if he follows the ridiculous pace he's on right now, even remotely close, and kind of plays for the longevity that like Beltre had, I think he's going to. Yeah, for me, I'm huge on Manny Machado, and that's kind of like a more recent thing. Like I kind of was like, oh, Manny Machado's good. Like, and just like you said, like you never realize that you're watching a player that's this good until it's too late. But now it's kind of coming around. Like Manny Machado's a freak. He's a stud. Potential future Hall of Famer, along with Mookie Betts and a couple other guys we'll talk about here. The other MVP debate is two Cardinals, Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, and the young gun Jazz Chisholm Jr. Jazz Chisholm, huge bright spot for a Marlins team where their offense has been pretty miserable so far. Pitching hasn't really lived up. Sandy's kind of picking it up. But Cardinals competing for a wild card spot with Nolan Gorman and Matt Liberatore. Here's the old heads buoying them. Nolan Arenado is hitting 288 on the year. 9 home runs, 152 WRC plus. He's worth 2.1 F4. And Paul Goldschmidt is hitting 344. Always hits for high average. 7 home runs. He's got 3 steals. Isn't he like 38? He's got 3 stolen bases. 181 WRC plus and 2 F4. Compared to Jazz Chisholm, he's hitting 290. He's got 7 home runs, 6 steals, 157 WRC plus, worth 1.9 F4. Of these 3, who do you think's leading that pace?
I think it's pretty clear. I like Goldschmidt here.
Yeah, I do too.
He's been, we just can't not agree.
Norman Armando is also very good. I can take Nolan's side on this. Nolan provides a ridiculous amount of defense compared to Paul Goldschmidt, who's a solid defender at first, but he's not like the best defender at first base anymore, in my opinion. Nolan Arenado, another guy that is probably going to be a Hall of Famer as long as he continues any sort of trajectory remotely close to what he's been on, just because like he's basically Scott Rowland. Like already he's just kind of Scott Rowland. Arenado, he's got a huge arm, great glove, very slow, hits for a lot of power. Even outside of course now, he's still hitting for a lot of power. If he's still half decent for the rest of his career, I think he's like a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. And I think he's, you could make an argument that he's leading this group just because of the defensive value that he provides.
Yeah.
The WRC plus isn't there, but he's still worth more WAR than Paul or than Mr. Goldschmidt. I could take Nolan's side on this.
Yeah, I mean, I've got them in a debate because they're all pretty close. But yeah, I mean, I have Goldschmidt on one of my fantasy teams, and he started off really slow. So the fact that he's batting 345 now is just like insane. Like he's been killing it the last few weeks. He was the top offensive performer in my last top fantasy performers article for the Athletes Hub. So that was pretty cool because he's just been killing it at the plate. Like you said, he's a solid defender. I don't know. It's just pretty hard. I mean, it's pretty hard to bet against him right now. Just the way he's been impacting the ball and stuff. The only problem is his barrel rate is like 10% lower than it usually is, which is not a good sign, but maybe it's different in this new environment. I think he's probably pulling the ball a lot more, and that's helping him reach the power. But that average being that high is pretty incredible. But you can't count out Jazz. He's the young guy. He could just keep getting better as the season goes on. He's the most fun player to watch of these 3 for sure. Power speed combo, playing second base, so you don't really need to be the best defender in the world, but he's striking out a lot less than he did last season, which has helped his average stay up there at 290. In the end, I don't think he finishes top 5 in MVP voting, but it's really good to see him continue to improve at the plate. Excuse me. It's good to see him improve at the plate because I thought his strikeout rate was going to be a concern coming into this season, and that he would sort of struggle and hit like in the low 200s and then would have to make an adjustment going into next year. But it looks like he's already made that adjustment. He's one of the most confident and exciting players to watch in baseball. But yeah, I think we're sort of both on the same page with Goldschmidt being the clear number 3 amongst the MVP conversation. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to look at the MVP races right now, especially this early on in the season. We got some clear guys in Machado, Judge, and Trout that are sort of running away from the rest of the pack, and that may not stay the same for the rest of the season. You know, injuries can always hit, or guys can get hot or cold. So you never really know what's going to happen. I think in a couple podcasts we'll look at the Cy Young just to give pitchers their due as well. But next podcast we'll do the monthly recap because May will be over by the time we are up on the podcast again for episode 17.
Before we kind of transition a little bit more, I mean, we can talk about Paul Goldschmidt a little bit more. I talked about Manny Machado as a potential Hall of Famer. I think Paul Goldschmidt's right in that same boat.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously an older player, but I mean, he's basically on a similar trajectory. He's playing first base and can be a designated hitter late in his career now with the universal designated hitter. You know, he's leading the league in doubles and he's like 5 off the pace in hits. He's 34. I hate it because he's a Cardinals player, but he's a great baseball player. So I obviously love good baseball. Is he going to be one of the most underrated players in baseball history when it's all said and done? If he either makes the Hall or doesn't make the Hall, because he's a first baseman, so it's a little bit harder to accrue WAR. He's still not a very good defender anymore, but he's still hitting at a ridiculous pace. How are you standing on that debate?
I don't know. I think it's going to be dependent on how he does for the rest of his career. I mean, obviously, but like you said, he was super underrated in his time in Arizona. That probably has to do with the market a lot, but I think it also has to do with the fact that he's playing first base and he was like a 30-30 guy when he was playing first base in Arizona, which is insane. Like you do not see that from a first baseman. That's like Jeff Bagwell type stuff. He's obviously not as good as Jeff Bagwell, but I think he's really good. And he seems to be a guy who's like a professional hitter, you know, like he knows how to make the adjustments. He knows how to like stay good at the plate, even when he's not at his best. He knows the adjustments that he has to make. And that'll keep him doing well. Like you said, he's 34 already this year and he's still killing it in the MVP conversation. He definitely had a case for MVPs in the past in Arizona. I can't remember. There was one year where he finished. Was it the Giancarlo Stanton 2017 season? I think he was really close there. He should have been
2017 he finished 3rd. Last year he actually finished 6th. And I think it was in 2013 that he finished 2nd, like he was runner up.
Okay.
So he's got several top 10 MVP finishes. Looking at the Baseball References Jaws leaders, he's actually 24th already in WAR for all first basemen. All right, well, not, excuse me. I think he's actually higher than that. He's right around he's 24th in Jaws, 29th in overall WAR. And he's like right behind like John Olerud, who basically like he looks like a very similar player to John Olerud, who is also a very chronically underrated player. But also not in the Hall of Fame. So like I don't know. I think he could get there. Is he a little bit too old to accrue like the necessary WAR to build his case even more, or what? Because he's got like I think he's right on 53 WAR for Baseball Reference, of course. But I think like the hypothetical debates like this are interesting regarding guys like this because like you just said, you don't recognize guys that are Hall of Famers until they're gone. Like Paul Goldschmidt could potentially be one of those guys. It's the same with Arenado, who's even more people I think would be like, oh well, Arenado's probably a Hall of Famer. But then you look at Goldschmidt, like, and everyone's like, oh, Goldie's really good, but not like, oh yeah, he's probably on the doorstep of the Hall of Fame. Kind of in the same vein as like Votto. Like he's a pretty similar player to Votto.
Yeah, just being a consistent all-star every year will get you in there, and you don't really realize it until the guy's racked up like 8 all-star teams and like you said, over 50 WAR. Like that'll get you there. Like what is Derek Jeter at like 60 or something? Definitely Trout passed him long ago. But I think Goldschmidt definitely has a good chance, especially if he keeps hitting like this for just at least a few more years that finishes out his contract with St. Louis. I think he'll definitely have a chance, especially if he surpasses the 60 WAR mark. That'll almost guarantee him in there. But yeah, it's all about just like being consistent, like being a consistent all-star for like over a decade. That'll get you in there. And you don't really realize it until the guy's won, made 10 all-star teams and stuff, and has been in top 5 of MVP voting multiple times. So yeah, pretty cool that we've got all these guys that are so amazing playing in the league right now. You sort of like, you have Mike Trout, who's like a guaranteed Hall of Fame. You got like Kershaw and stuff. We still got Miggy and Pujols around, but then you got like this next group of guys who will be like the legends at the end of their careers. We're just like, okay, wow, this guy's actually going to be a Hall of Famer. Sort of like you said, Joey Votto, where he was really solid for a long time, and then he sort of just held on for a while, has some of the best plate discipline numbers of all time, and then had a really great season last year, with sort of really cemented everything. If he can just like hit a few more home runs this year, turn things around a little bit, he's still got, I think, 2 more seasons on his contract. I think he's almost guaranteed to get in. And yeah, we've got like a great crop of MLB players across the league. And it's cool to see the guys that are like on the precipice of like being in that Hall of Fame discussion when their career comes to an end. It's cool to see them having great years this year, that putting them in the MVP discussion to give them even more recognition right now, so that people are talking about them more before their time is up. Machado obviously has a lot more time, but Goldschmidt's got maybe a few more years. So yep, really cool. Sorry that it's the Cardinals having these Hall of Fame guys.
It's okay. Maybe he'll go in with a Diamondbacks hat.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, I can dream. I think it's a pretty good time that we ought to bring in the closer.
All right.
We talked about MVP debates, all these guys tearing it up, hitting. Let's bring in a guy that's going to shut them down, shut out the podcast, and take us home with the save. I'll hand it over to you, Jake. You can make the call to the bullpen.
All right. Going with Japanese League All-Star Kazuhiro Sasaki. Got the banner down below. Finally remembered to put that up for once. But yeah, here we go. Kazuhiro Sasaki had a 12-year career in NPB, but that wasn't it, because I obviously wouldn't cover a guy that only played in Japan. But in Japan, he played 12 seasons, 1990 to 99, and then after he was done in MLB, he played from 04 to 05. He started his career out with the Yokohama Taiyo Whales, which changed their names later to the Yokohama Bay Stars. So he only played for one team, one franchise throughout his career in Japan. And then he came over to the States in 2000, and he only stayed for 4 seasons. He played from 2000 to 2003 with only the Seattle Mariners. He was a guy that had a pretty limited repertoire, but it was really solid. He featured a mid-90s fastball, so he was throwing 95, and he had a devastating splitter nicknamed by the announcers, the commentators for the Mariners, nicknamed it The Thing, which is reminiscent of Alex Cobb's splitter, The Thing. So, yeah, pretty cool. Well, if you got a nickname for your pitch, you know it's a good one. He was an elite closer, though, when he was in Japan. He made 8 all-star teams across those 12 seasons. But remember, he only played 10 seasons before coming to MLB. So he was an all-star 8 out of 10 years. He saved more than 30 games 3 times, and he had a 2.41 lifetime ERA in MPB across 627 and 2/3 innings pitched. He won the Central League MVP award in 1998. Central League is like American League, National League, and MPB. So that was pretty cool that they had a closer win it in 1998. He threw 56 innings that year, saved 45 games, had a 0.64 ERA, 0.80 whip, and 78 strikeouts in those 56 innings. Reminiscent of that Zach Britton season where he had like a 0.6, 0.5 something ERA a few years ago. And he got MVP votes, but he didn't win. But I think he was more deserving, and that shows that with Sasaki winning the MVP as a closer that year, it was just like an incredible year. He had to have given up just like a few runs. He set the single season MVP record for saves and save opportunities, 46, meaning he was 45 for 46 in save ops. I don't know if that record still stands, but at the time, he had the most saves in a single season in MPB history. And then he came over to the States in 2000 at the age of 32, and he won the Rookie of the Year award at that advanced stage. Pretty impressive nonetheless in his first year in a new country. He threw 60 innings, 60.2. He had 37 saves, a 3.16 ERA, and a 1.17 WHIP. That came with 78 strikeouts, and those 37 saves were the most by a rookie in MLB history until Neftali Feliz 40 in 2010, 10 years later. So he then had 2 more seasons with the Mariners where he made back-to-back All-Star teams in 2001 and 2002. 2001, he set a career high in the MLB with 45 saves, had a 3.24 ERA and a 0.89 WHIP. Really solid. He wasn't really he was not striking guys out as much as he was in his rookie year, but he was really effective nonetheless. And then in 2002, he saved 37 more games, had a personal career MLB low 2.52 ERA and a 1.06 WHIP. So he was really solid for a couple years riding that splitter. And then he wasn't his best in his final MLB season in 2003. Only had 10 saves. He was up and down for the minors. He had maybe it was a minor league rehab stint or something like that. Sometimes you can't really tell from the BREF page, but he had a 4.59 ERA and a 1.38 WHIP, so he wasn't at his best. And then he decided to forego his $8.5 million contract for the 2004 season and return to Japan. He said he just wanted to go home, but Wikipedia said that he had some pressuring from the front office in Seattle because of some of the stuff he did outside of the baseball field. I'm not really sure what those things were, but nonetheless, he returned back to Japan for 2 more seasons. He returned back to Yokohama. He had to retire in 2005 due to injuries. He wasn't that great in his return. He was also pretty old. He was in his late 30s by then, but he still was inducted into the MPB Hall of Fame in 2014 because he was so great across those 12 years. I remember he won the MVP award back in '98. So pretty cool for him to make the Hall of Fame as a reliever. And across his career, his 4-year MLB career, he only had 3.7 baseball reference WAR. That came across 223 and a third innings pitched with 242 strikeouts, a 3.14 ERA, and a 1.08 WHIP. And that came with 129 career saves, which is tied for 114th all time. Not that impressive by itself, but when you look closer and you realize, oh man, this guy pitched like 3.5 seasons, 4 seasons technically. No one in MLB history has more saves in such a short time span as Kazuhiro Sasaki. So pretty impressive for him to be closing out this podcast because he was so incredible in his 4 years in the majors and deservedly made the Hall of Fame for the MPB. So, yep, that's Kazuhiro Sasaki, and he has closed out this Free Baseball Podcast, episode number 16. Any final words, Davis?
No, I think we covered everything. Make sure you join back with us next week, where we can talk about all the happenings from the month. So,
yep.
Till next time.